Three at the back for West Ham at Southampton yesterday. Moyes was forced into it because of the personnel, or should I say the players unavailable. No Craig Dawson, no Kurt Zouma meant Moyes felt he had to go with three in defence. Thilo Kehrer with Cresswell and Ben Johnson either side. I get it. I understand why Moyes did it. This isn't a video saying Moyes was wrong. This is just a video saying I don't necessarily agree with it. And the reason I don't like it, ironically, is because of the players that played, or should I say who played where. And specifically Vladimir Coufal. I do not think Coufal is a good right wing back. I think when you play this formation, which is 3 centre backs and 2 wing backs, they are the most important players in your team, or should I say they've got the most important role in your team. They are what potentially makes or breaks this system working, because defensively they have to be solid, they have to get back in, they have to become fullbacks from a defensive standpoint, hard to beat, tough in the tackle. At times they will have 2 opponents, they'll be outnumbered down that side quite often. It's a very, very difficult role to do from a defensive standpoint. Now, to be clear, this aspect of Coufal is perfect. He gets back, he gets in his position is good, his timings are good, when to run, when to stay, really, really good. Does he get beat often by his man? Not really. He's quite strong in the tackle, he's hard to beat. From a defensive standpoint, I've got no complaints with Coufal as a right wing back. However, when West Ham are now in possession going forward, this is where there's demands on your wing backs. You have to get out the pitch, you have to provide the width, you've got to provide the crossing, you've got to get creative in that final third, you have to contribute to attacking moves. Now this is where I have an issue with Coufal being right wing back, in the sense I don't think he's good enough. I feel the attack, and yesterday in particular, failed a lot more on the right hand side than it did on the left hand side, whether it be because of Coufal's pace, because of his indecision in the final third. I felt he's a bit hesitant sometimes. I feel his crossing can be a bit average, it's a bit hit and hope. I'll just put it into the area and hope there's somebody there. Whereas I feel Emerson's a bit more precise with his crossing, where he gets his head up and tries to pick someone out, whereas I think Coufal's get it into the area, Emerson's find the man. 2 completely different things. And this is where I have an issue with Coufal playing right wing back. Now, for clarity, I think Coufal's a better right back than Emerson is a left back, if that makes sense. As a conventional right back in a flat 4, I don't have an issue with Coufal. Is he in the best of form right now? No, but he's solid from that position. He's fine there because there's a player ahead of him from that attacking aspect. But in the wing back, Bowen tucks inside, Coufal gets down the line, he becomes the attacking outlet in the final third. And this is why wing backs are very, very difficult. Can you tell I played wing back when I was younger for a period? Not to any level, of course, but it's all subjective, isn't it? The roles stay the same, just to a much lesser level. But you're required to contribute in all 3 areas of the pitch, and there's not that many roles or players that are required to do so. Souček obviously is, but when we're defending, like I said, you've got to get back, you've got to be a strong defender, but when you're attacking, you've got to get down that pitch quickly, you've got to get down there. And there is an emphasis on your creativity. Well, come on then, let's see the crosses, let's see what you can do in the attacking third. Not every player has that pressure. Take Flynn Downs, for example. When he finally plays, Flynn Downs, we're not asking him to do anything in the final third. In the middle third, do your thing. Get the ball, keep it ticking over, give it to the players that will do the attacking. From the defensive standpoint, protect that back 4. Be busy in our third, the middle third. Attacking third, don't worry about it. Not your bag. Likewise, Scamacca. Now, I know it's a bit extreme, but we don't need him in our defensive third, bar defending corners. But you do your business at one end of the pitch and one end only. But wing backs, no. You've got to contribute in all 3 parts of the pitch in terms of territory. It's a very, very difficult role. But I think if you get it right, if you get the right wing backs in to your team, this formation can be a big success, a huge success. But I don't think we've got one. I don't think we have a right wing back good enough. Now, he's not helped. Coufal yesterday wasn't helped by Jared Bowen. Jared Bowen was ahead of him. He was the sort of immediate opponent going forward. And he was poor, really poor yesterday, Jared Bowen. So Coufal was already sort of struggling a little bit. But I'm not basing this conclusion on yesterday. This is something that we've seen since he arrived at the club. And I go back to his debut season when he was in contention for Hammer of the Year. As a right back, he was fantastic. He was one of the best right backs in the league that season. His delivery was superb. He was getting forward really well. Defensively, he was tough tackling. He was hard to play against. He was becoming a bit of a cult hero. We loved him. We still do. But in that first season, he would play right wing back on occasion, and I don't think he played well. I think he struggled there. And that's okay. It's okay to be a right back and not a right wing back. Like I said, it's two completely different roles altogether. You can look at some of the best English right backs in the league right now, and they struggle when they play right wing back. Likewise, there's some of them that are right wing backs that struggle when they're right backs. It's fine. You're able to do that. But this is where I have a problem with us playing three at the back long term, and this is where I have a bit of a head scratching moment, because there's a lot of rumours this is what Moyes wanted to do this season, play three centre backs, wing backs, whatever. And the signing of Emerson would imply that that is what he wants to do, because like I said, I think Emerson is a wing back, not a full back, but somebody that is best suited with a centre back behind him. Ideally, someone like Creswell. The partnership between them two is really good. I think if you left them two out there playing this formation, I think that partnership would really blossom, Creswell and Emerson. But on the other side of the pitch, we didn't invest in a right wing back. We didn't buy one. So it doesn't really make sense to me. In the summer, we invested in a left wing back, but not the right wing back. And it's a little bit contradictory, because like I said, if we played four at the back, I don't like Emerson as left back so far. From what I've seen here in previous seasons at other clubs, I'm not keen on him. I think defensively he's a bit of a liability. Not something I can say for Coufal, but certainly for Emerson. And this is where I find it a bit confusing. Did we want to play this formation or not? If so, why didn't we invest in a right wing back? I think arguably our most suited player for this role at the club is Harrison Ashby. There's four contenders, I think. I think there's Kehrer, Harrison Ashby, and then Ben Johnson and Vladimir Coufal. I think Ashby possibly might be the best suited, but it's difficult to say. We don't have enough evidence of that. I'm making up this conclusion based on this smaller evidence that I have seen, but going forward, I think he's really, really good. Is he good enough defensively? I'm not 100% sure, but you get away with it a little bit. You don't have to be the most defensively switched on in this formation because you've got someone behind you. Ideally, someone like Craig Dawson would be behind him, keeping an eye on him, talking him through the game, and if he gets caught out, don't worry about it. I'm here. I'm going to come over and cover for you. But the problem with Harrison Ashby, as we all know, there's arguably three problems here. First of all, where is he? He was injured, came back from the 21s, and he's gone again, so I can only assume he's picked up another injury. Secondly, we've got that contract situation. As we all know, in the final year of his contract, looked like he was away to Newcastle at the end of the summer transfer window. He's still here, but he's still being linked to Newcastle, as well as Leeds United, who we know are investing in some young players, aren't they? Sonny Perkins. So he could be off in the January transfer window. Now, I have a lot of sympathy with David Moyes here, actually, because it's a bit damned if you do, damned if you don't. Imagine he plays Harrison Ashby between now and the World Cup, and then in January disappears. He would look a bit silly then, wouldn't he? So I could understand if Moyes is reluctant to play Ashby due to his contract situation. I'm not saying that's the case. I don't know. I'm just guessing here. But if that's the case, I get it. I would understand why Moyes doesn't want to play somebody that's committed to West Ham United. If anything, I agree with that. But also I see the other side of the coin here, which is, well, perhaps this is why Harrison Ashby won't sign a contract, because he's not getting game time. Maybe if you did give him game time, he'd sign that new deal. We'll never know what Ashby's thoughts or intentions are unless he tells us himself. So it's a little bit guessing from the outside. But like I said, I think Moyes is in a bit of a difficult situation with the Ashby one. But nevertheless, it's probably a contributing factor as to why we perhaps won't see him. Hopefully we'll see him in the two Conference League group stage games that have to come. Fingers crossed. And the third one is, even if he had 2-3 years to go in his contract, and I don't mean he's just signed a new one, I mean this a year to go was never a thing, right? He's still got 2 years to go. Imagine it, right? He's still got 2 years. Would Moyes play him over Coufal and Johnson and Thilo Kehrer? I'm not too sure. If you go back a couple of years with Ben Johnson, Moyes was quite slow to sort of integrate him into the team. And I get it. He's trying to look after the player, trying to get him developed, restrict the chances of making errors and shattering any confidence he's got. And he's doing it a bit with Flynn Downs. He's just putting Flynn Downs into the team, letting him have a good game, taking him out, working with him on the training field, putting him back in, playing well, take him out, say, right, last game played well, this is what we need to do better. He's moulding Flynn Downs as we speak, so that he's ready to play the David Moyes way when he does play him. So, would Moyes play Ashby over the other three? I'm not convinced. I don't think the contract situation is the issue here. I mean, I think injuries are, first and foremost. But even then, there was times last season where they were all fit. Coufal, Johnson, Fredericks and Ashby. And arguably at times Ashby could have been and possibly should have been called upon because of the lack of form from the other players. But he still didn't get in. It was still one of the more senior players that would play ahead of him. So I'm not sure we would see Ashby anyway. But sticking with David Moyes and going back to Vladimir Coufal, this is where Moyes could do with helping him out, because he's not been in the best form this season, Coufal. I think he played well on Thursday against Anderlecht. I think yesterday, I don't think he was bad. It's not that he had a bad game, he just had bad moments, and they were quite pivotal, that in the sense that we didn't win the game yesterday. We came away with a draw, so you're looking at it saying, well, where can we improve? And it's hard to not look at the service being provided from the wing back areas. And like I said, I don't think Emerson was great yesterday, average at best as well. He got withdrawn, and rightly so. I just think Moyes could probably do Coufal a little bit of a favour, take him out the five-in line as well. You know, the first hour of the game is not working, he's struggling a bit, he's had a few heavy touches, his crosses hasn't been great. We'll take him off. It's not going to change for the last half hour of the game, is it? Get him off the pitch, move Ben Johnson over, put Bobnett on next to Kehrer, and move Ben Johnson at right back and pull Bowen out to the right or something. Do something, change it. But to just leave it when it wasn't working for the first, like I said, the first hour, the first 70 minutes, when that wasn't working, just to leave it seemed a little bit foolish for me. And this is where my frustration is more with the manager than Vladimir Coufal, because like I said, Coufal isn't a wing back, he's a right back. That's his position. So when he's not quite playing that well in a different position, it's hard for me to get annoyed with the player himself rather than the man that's put him in that position, saying, can you do the job of that player, please, even though you're not really that kind of player. And that's my frustration. Now, there was a situation last night, and I'm going to cover it now, because Coufal put up a tweet after the game and then had to delete it. Now, I saw the tweet from Coufal. I can't recall what it was, but it was one of those generic, thanks for the support, we're unlucky to only get the point, you know, it's mainly thanking the fans, acknowledging the game they've just played. And with Hammer's Chat, I always try and retweet all the players' tweets, especially after a game, because I feel like it's our duty to some extent to do that, to promote the players. So I remember retweeting it. Now, a couple of people told me have you seen it? He's had to delete it, and I didn't see it. The story copped a bit of abuse. Now, I never seen the abuse. I can't say what got said to him. I don't know. But there is a big difference, I think, between voicing your opinion and abusing a player. And this is something I've never sort of understood. When we do the World Cup, we've got obviously the World Cup coming up, and we've had a little brainstorm about what content we could do. So if you've got any ideas, let me know in the comments, will you? Any ideas for content during the World Cup, put them in the comments. So anyway, we had a bit of a brainstorm. And one little series we might bring out involving some of you guys and some people that you might recognise on YouTube and stuff is almost like a West Ham Room 101 type thing. Just a little bit of fun or something. And I think one of the things I would put on Room 101 is this theory that if you have an opinion, it means you don't support the player. Does that make sense? Like, let's go back to the summer. The first time I ever experienced it was about Felipe Anderson, but rather than using that example, let's use the summer when we signed Emerson. And I remember doing a video, and we were basically discussing the signing. It was a bit like, well, a bit underwhelming. The signing was a bit underwhelming. We'd have liked a more substantial player to come in for that left back role, a younger signing, you know, when you're linked to the likes of Owen Wijndal, David Ram, those kind of players. That's who you're hoping for. And with the greatest respect to Emerson, he's not on that level. So there was an element of a little bit of disappointment that we didn't get a bigger investment at left wing back. And most people, now, like I said, most people get it. They said, yeah, fine, I disagree, I agree, whatever. But you always get a handful of people that say, why don't you just support the player? Why don't you get behind Emerson? And I've never understood that, because it's very possible to do both. It's very possible to think, oh, would have liked a different left back, but then when you go to the games and whatever, to sing his name, to cheer him, to hope he does well. I just assume, there's some things I just assume every West Ham fan wants every West Ham player to do well. I assume that, okay? I've never once thought, oh, I think he wants him to struggle just so he's right because he doesn't like. I've never thought that. I've always felt that I just assumed everybody just wants every player and manager to do well, even if you like them or not. We had Nick on here from Claret and Booze during the international break, who at the time was Moyes out. I just assume, I'm not asking Nick this, I just assume Nick wants Moyes to do well. Even though he wanted Moyes gone in the international break, I just assume Nick wants Moyes to start winning games, start turning it around, start getting us forward in European football. I think if Nick goes to the games and that was saying that we've got Super David Moyes, I would assume Nick sings it in support of the manager. Even though he thinks the manager's not doing a good job, it doesn't mean he doesn't support him. It doesn't mean he doesn't want him to do well. I've never understood the correlation on there. Now, while Coufal has had to delete his tweet, now I don't agree with that, just before someone wrongly assumes here. I think sending a player abuse, or sending anyone abuse for that matter, there's a line, and I think that oversteps it by a country mile. I see it sometimes in the comments of these videos. Someone will have an opinion about a player, and someone will reply with a different opinion, and before you know it, they're calling each other names. All you've done is disagree whether Souček should start or not. Why is it escalated into this name calling and just horrible attitude to some extent? I've never understood it, and this goes back to me with Coufal. Now, while sending him abuse is far wrong, and to see that, I went on last night to see what was happening, and there's loads of people sending him nice tweets and support, and that is really pleasing to see. And I actually forgot there was a picture on there of him after the Frankfurt game. I forgot that Frankfurt fans invaded the pitch. They came on the pitch after the game, they knocked us out, they're off to the Europa League final, and all the fans came on the pitch. And Coufal just walked through them, just walked over to the away end, clapping the away end, not caring the fact that there's hooligans essentially on the pitch behind him. Didn't bother him. No, I'm going over to the away end. Souček did as well. There was pictures of them both clapping the away fans over there, and it was nice to see the support for them. But that's part of my thing here. The majority of players do support them. The majority of fans do support the players. The abuse would have been from a very small percentage, and it is unfortunate because it's meant that he's had to delete a tweet, and there will be repercussions going forward, which will be Coufal will probably feel, unless we win, I can't put out a tweet because of the abuse I get, and it's too far. Stuff like that is far too far. But it's not going to change my opinion that I don't think Coufal's a good right wing back. I'm not going to shy away from the fact that I don't want to see him right wing back in the next game because he's deleted a tweet. Because like I said, it's two separate things. The abuse he got's one thing. My opinion on whether Coufal should play right wing back or not, there's not a correlation. And I'll go back to my example with Felipe Anderson, and I'm going to shut up and disappear. I remember years ago, obviously, I can't remember. I tweeted an opinion. Basically, I didn't want to see Felipe Anderson start the next game. I don't think he's in good form. Blah blah. And someone replied, "Why don't you just support him?" I thought, well, I am. I'm hardly turning up to the game going, "Excuse me, at Felipe8 Anderson." I don't know if that's his Twitter handle. Just go with it. At Felipe8 Anderson. I don't want to see you start today. I don't think you're in good form. You're shying away from tackles. I'd rather see... Who did we have at the time? I can't remember. But, you get my point. It's two different things. Holding what is a negative opinion on a player and supporting a player are two different things. And I assume anyone that thinks this player's not good enough, I don't want to see this player start, I'd rather see Areola or Fabianski. Doesn't mean you hate Fabianski. Doesn't mean you want him to be sold. Just means you'd rather see Areola. And I think sometimes things get blurred, and there's this, like I said, the minority, very few, majority understand, but the minority just think that if you have an opinion on the player that isn't a positive one, an overwhelming a positive one, it means that you don't want him to do well. You want him sold. No. If Coufal starts against Liverpool, I hope he's man of match, just like I hope everybody else is man of match. Do I want to see Coufal start against... Well, I might do, actually. I might actually want Coufal to start. But hypothetically, if I didn't want Coufal to start the next game, it doesn't mean I want him to play bad. When the lineup comes out, I might think, oh, no, I'd rather Coufal wasn't playing. It doesn't mean I dislike the player. Like I said, that decision is about the man in the dugout. Coufal doesn't pick himself. That's up to the manager. But anyway, a bit of a ramble, but hopefully it makes sense, because I see sometimes I just think that people will have a negative opinion, and it's a bit like when we do reviews, we have to do disclaimers. Not so much this season, last season, when we were playing crap in the league, you know, we would do a review, me and Gonzo would say, oh, we played poor today, we've got beat, this player's not played well, that player's not played well, here's our thoughts. And people would reply going, yeah, but we're in the Europa League quarter-final, what are you moaning about? It's possible to be happy with that, but disappointed with what we just saw in the 90 minutes. It's a match review. This video is a review on Coufal at wing-back. I don't like it, but it's down to the manager, really, isn't it? Anyway, right, now I'm disappearing. Back tonight, Liverpool preview this evening. Coufal. We're going to have to discuss if we want Coufal to play or not, aren't we? Anyway, if you enjoyed this video somehow, please do drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you in a bit.